What do you do when your faith becomes a weapon? When the place that promised you salvation instead delivers silence, isolation, and fear? Welcome to Is This Real? Dark Side of Faith. I'm JC3. And tonight, we begin a journey deep into a world that most of us have never seen, and for some, a world they can never escape. We're kicking off this series by looking into the Word of Faith Fellowship, a group that from the outside may just look like another evangelical community, but for those on the inside, something much darker. Cult cloaked in Christianity, a spiritual prison, a family that fractures rather than heals. And what you're about to hear isn't just a story. It's a testimony, it's a warning, and it's real. I want to start by telling you guys how I got pulled into it. I didn't go looking for it. A few months ago, during a TikTok live segment I was doing, we were talking about cults, because on that season of Is This Real, we were talking about cults and religious prophecy. And that's when Savannah entered the chat. She mentioned that her aunt and her uncle belonged to this group, the Word of Faith Fellowship Church, and how they changed since joining. We brought her on. We did a full interview, which you can see. Link in the description. She spoke from the heart. That episode got a response. It shook some people, and for some, it gave them the courage to speak out. Then, I got a message. It was anonymous. No name, no identifiers, just this.
I used to be part of the church. I heard Savannah's interview. I need to tell you what really goes on.
That message turned into hours of back and forth, mostly on Facebook Messenger. It was raw, emotional, and frankly, terrifying. And that's what led us here. And this is what they told me. This person was born in the church. And that's key. Because when you're born into a group like this, you just think this is regular life. You don't know you're in a cult. They said, quote,
"We weren't allowed to question anything. Not our teachers, not the pastors, not our parents. If you doubted the church, you were doubting God."
There were rules for everything. No secular music, no movies unless they were approved, no talking to outsiders, and especially no questioning leadership. And the punishment wasn't just a timeout. It was emotional warfare.
You'd be yelled at, screamed at, publicly shamed. And the worst part? Everyone around you believed it was love, that this was God correcting you.
There was no such thing as privacy. Journals were read, confessions were forced. People were told to spy on you, even your own family members. They described it as spiritual surveillance. At the center of all this was the belief that demons were everywhere, and that nearly everything outside of the church was demonic. Music, demonic. TV shows, demonic. Talking to someone who left the church, demonic influences. Even doubting your own guilt, that was the devil trying to trick you. And this wasn't just some abstract concept. They practiced what they called blasting, a form of screaming prayer meant to drive a demon out of someone.
If you disobeyed, they'd surround you, start shouting at the top of their lungs, "Satan, get out." And you'd be crying, shaking, hyperventilating. But they told you that was a sign the demons were leaving.
Sometimes it went on for hours. Sometimes it happened in front of the entire congregation. Now imagine being a 10-year-old child and going through that repeatedly. Our anonymous source told me something that's stuck with me ever since.
They don't just control your actions. They teach you to control your own thoughts. You learn to police yourself, to report yourself. You start to believe that you are the problem.
They were told who to date, who to marry, when to marry, and if they didn't follow the path that was laid out for them, they'd be shunned. And the most heartbreaking part of all this?
I didn't know who I was outside the church. I didn't know what I liked, what I believed. Everything I was came from them. So when I finally started thinking about leaving, it felt like I was planning my own funeral.
And that's exactly how the church wants you to feel. Eventually, they left. They didn't tell anyone. They just disappeared.
I packed a bag, took the little money I had, and I left in the middle of the night. No goodbye, no plan. Just a need to survive.
They slept in the car for a while, crashed at a friend's house, dealt with years of trauma, guilt, and loneliness. And the kicker, no one from outside the church ever called to ask if they were okay.
To them, I had chosen evil. I was dead weight. My soul was damned. But you know what? Even in all that pain, I felt more free than I ever had inside those walls.
I asked them why they chose to speak to me. Why now? And they said,
Because people need to know, because there are still kids in that church going through what I went through. Because someone out there is listening and they need to hear that escape is possible. I'm not the only one. I was just the one who got out.
and that's what the dark side of faith is about. It's not about attacking belief. It's about exposing abuse. It's about separating faith from fear, hope from control, healing from silence. If this story hit home for you, if it reminded you of something you've been through or something you're still in, please know this. You are not alone. You are not crazy, and hope has not abandoned you. If you guys like this video, like and subscribe down below for more content from Is This Real and the Dark Side of Faith, or more content from Green Arrow Media. I want to hear you guys in the comments. Comment if you've been inside this church or if you've been inside another cult that you want me to expose or talk about. I would love to hear from you guys. I really would. This has been Is This Real Dark Side of Faith. I'm JC3, and I'll see you guys next week.